Hello everybody, today we're going to solve another trigonometric equation. So we need to find the exact solution on the interval 0 from 0 to 2 pi. We have sine square x minus cosine square x minus sine x equal to 0. Now in order for us to solve this equation, we need to have either all sine or all cosine. Here we have both. So we need to change one for the other. So you always look at the sine square x and cosine square x. Why? Because of the equation sine square x plus cosine square x is equal to 1. So sine square x will always be 1 minus cosine square x, and cosine square x is equal to 1 minus sine square x. So you can always change one for the other. So we need to either change this to cosine square or this to sine square. Since I have a sine x, so I'm going to leave the sine. So I'm going to have to change this. So that would give us what? We have sine square x minus cosine square x is 1 minus sine square x. So make sure you have the parentheses. 1 minus sine square x minus sine x equal to 0. Now remember, we had to put the parentheses because then we have an invisible 1 here. Negative 1 is multiplied by 1 and multiplied by negative sine square x. So now we're just going to have to simplify. We have sine square x distributing the negative. We get negative 1, negative times negative plus sine square x minus sine x equal to 0. So now we have a quadratic equation in sine x. But first we have to simplify first. So simplify combining these together. Sine square x plus sine square x, that gives us 2 sine square x minus sine x minus 1. And that's equal to 0. So now we have a quadratic equation in sine x. Now we can easily factor it. We have 2 sine square x that gives us either 2 sine x and x. There is no other way we can get 2 sine square x. So 2 sine x times sine x gives us 2 sine square x. Now we have a 1. We have the product of negative 1. So we have to have 1 and 1. There is no other option. We just have to see where is the negative first. Well, since the middle term is negative, so the larger product must be negative. Now remember, we're going to multiply this by this. So this should give me negative 2 sine x, and this with this plus sine x. So negative 2 sine x plus sine x, that will give me negative sine x. So that will give me the middle term in here. And plus 1 times negative 1, that will give me the negative 1. So this is the correct factoring. Now again, we need to find the exact solution. So now we have to set each one containing the sine x equal to 0. So 2 sine x plus 1 equal to 0, or sine x minus 1 equal to 0. We subtract 1 on both sides here. So we have 2 sine x. This cancels, equal to negative 1. Okay, so now divide by 2 on both sides. So sine x would give us negative 1/2. Now, if you recall, sine pi over 6 gives us 1/2. So let's go ahead and graph it quickly here. Here, this is pi over 6, and sine pi over 6 is 1/2. Now remember, the sine is positive in the first quadrant and in the second quadrant. So the sine is negative in the third and the fourth. So we need to find 2 angles whose reference angle is pi over 6. Now if you recall, this is pi over 6. Here you have 5 pi over 6. and here you have 7 pi over 6, and here you have 11 pi over 6. It should be here. 7 pi over 6, okay? So all of these has a reference angle of pi over 6. Well, since we just said it, these two here are positive. The sine pi over 6, sine 5 pi over 6 are positive. The only solutions are 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. So x must be 7 pi over 6 and 11 pi over 6. All right? And now solving for this, we get now solve for x here. We add 1 on both sides. Sine x is equal, this cancels, equal to 1. And x, if you recall, x must be pi over 2. Sine pi over 2 is 1. So the solutions are pi over 2, 7 pi over 6, and 11 pi over 6. I went with the smallest angle first to the largest. So these are the solutions for the equation. I hope you found this video helpful. Have a good day, everyone. Bye-bye.